Hello, welcome to this Computer Weekly video in association with HP. I'm Brian Glick, I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Computer Weekly, and I'm here talking about some of the key issues that IT leaders are facing today. I'm joined for this video by Adrian Guttridge. Adrian is the Vice President for Business Process Outsourcing for HP across Europe, and we're talking about shared services, business process outsourcing, or BPO as we'll often refer to it, and the challenges that organisations face in making the transition to that sort of operating model. Adrian, thanks very much for coming along. Welcome to Computer Weekly and to this video.
Thank you.
Now, shared services is a term that's become very popular over the last few years, particularly in the public sector, but increasingly so in the private sector as well now. Just to kick off, explain what we really mean by shared services and why this is becoming such an important strategy for large organisations.
Yes. So this is all about implementing common processes across an organisation. So you align by process rather than by geography or by business unit. And that can bring many benefits. So it enables better controls, it enables economies of scale, and also allows an organisation to get a single view of its operation globally. And this is not just about the back office either. This can also happen in the front office too.
There's a number of different ways that you can approach shared services. What are the most common things that people are doing, and what's sort of the relative merits of each of those?
Yeah, there are three main themes that we see and approaches that people take, three main choices, and those are in-house, outsourced, or a hybrid model. And the first thing to look at, because there are many variables in there and many stakeholders to manage, is really starting with what's the problem you're trying to solve. So start there. Also understanding your appetite for risk, that's very important. And understanding what level of control you want. And in fact, some people think that by using outsourcing that the level of control goes down. In fact, that's not always the case. And we find that because organisations like ourselves are able to leverage common processes and practices we have, that can actually lead to greater control for our clients. Another thing to consider is access to resources. That could be capital, could be people, it could be technology, and that can also be a key factor. And then taking all those together, organisations can then determine what really suits them. Is an in-house model, an outsourced, or a hybrid model the best approach?
Okay, I mean it's a big step to take, whichever one of those options you do, and there's a lot of challenges involved. What are the most important practical steps, practical issues that you need to consider when you're planning making a move towards shared services or BPO?
Yes, and you're right, and many organisations are at different levels of maturity, and we would suggest that there are many items that organisations should consider. So one is about executive sponsorship. Are the executive on board and supportive of moving to a global process model? Are the requirements clear? And that's key. What value do you want, and are they going to be outcome-based and done on a global scale? Then looking at process maturity. So how mature are you already in terms of the processes you have? So how big a step is it going to be? Speed of implementation is very important. And do you have the resources to allow that? So, for example, if you haven't got those resources in-house, outsourcing is highly likely to be an answer for you. Then access to capital. Often organisations like ourselves have greater access to capital and can help with a transformation. And indeed, talking of transformation, looking at the change roadmap, if you already have a large level of change happening in your organisation, is now the right time for doing it. In addition to that, looking at tools and technology. So do you have any global applications already, any platforms that you can use? And then looking at locations. Often organisations we work with already have multiple global locations, and which ones are you going to choose for shared services? And we find that with locations, for example, it's not just a one-off decision. This needs to be ongoing as your organisation changes through time. And finally, looking at technology, then moving from simple automation through to analytics, and how then, when you've got all of that in place, do you really drive analytics on the back of the information that you're now collecting on a global basis?
You've described a lot of potential benefits that organisations can get from making that sort of move. Yes. Can you perhaps share some examples of organisations that you're aware of or that you work with who've been through this process and how they found it?
Yeah, well, there are two that spring to mind. One is DHL. So they're a very key client of ours, and for their global forwarding business, we've introduced shared services with a hybrid model, which is interesting. And for them, the key parts were to achieve standardisation, to improve quality and controls. And that's what they set out to achieve. And over the last few years, we've been helping them absolutely achieve those outcomes. Another example, a client, unfortunately, I can't name, but they were looking for a simpler operating model to, again, standardise, but also to centralise. And there they wanted a competitive, cost-effective platform. And that really is what we have been driving towards with them, and they've seen great outcomes there. And they started, interestingly, with finance and accounting, and often in shared services we see that in the commercial sector, that's where people are starting.
Those examples obviously fairly relatively mature early adopters who've gone down the road, but probably for a lot of people watching this video, they're very much at the early stages of considering a move to shared services. For somebody in that sort of position at the start of the road, by way of summary of everything you've talked about, what would be your sort of one or two top tips for the things they really need to do first in order to put them on the right path?
I think firstly, understand the problem you're trying to fix. Is it about cost, or is it another issue? Is it about agility, etc.? So understand that problem first. Then understand your capability. So how mature are you? Because only then can you understand the gap and what you want to achieve. Finally, the strategy should be well thought through and something that is sustainable. So going to last you for a long period of time, because this will be there for some period. But whichever model you choose, I think, and we've seen this, whether it's even in-house, there will be a degree of collaboration required with partners to implement, shared services globally. And so when you're going down that track, very important that you choose a partner or partners in which you have trust and you can truly collaborate. So that's really important.
Yeah, it's a big, important, long-term move, and that's very good advice. Adrian, thanks very much for coming along and sharing your experiences of the people that you've worked with. Very much appreciated. That's all we've got time for on this video. I've been talking to Adrian Guttridge from HP about the move to shared services and business process outsourcing, and I hope there's been some useful best practice and tips coming out of that for your own considerations for your IT strategy. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on another Computer Weekly video soon. Bye-bye.